Critical moments in history.
I don't want to go back and beat a dead horse with how critical I think the solo albums were. We kind of covered that in Gene. If somebody wants to go back and watch Gene, you can. I'm not going to go over that again. The other guys may want to go over that again. But I just think that the solo albums themselves, as a whole, maybe not in certain ones individually, but as a whole, I think the Kiss albums, as we called them when I was a kid, I think that they're very critical. Some fans view them as a misstep, that they should never happen, that it just created further division. I think the division was going to be there regardless. I think that the solo albums helped Ace and Peter hang on just a little longer. And when we got some really good performances out of all four members of the band because of these solo albums, and they all made the album that they wanted to make. I'm glad they all didn't sound like Kiss albums. That would have been boring. I'm glad that they all sounded different and unique in their own way. That's just my thoughts, but to me, it's just critical overall, just because of it gave us, we talked in the Gene Simmons episode, it gave us the colors of each member that wasn't established before this. It gave us all kinds of merch that, all this amazing merch that come out during this time and after this time between this and Dynasty that we would not have had the solo albums not come out with the big merch push. Not only was what that was available in the forms, in the merch forms, in the albums, but just all the other stuff that was coming out during this time, the Kiss dolls and all the other stuff that came out. So it was being somebody that was there when it happened. It was magical. It was we really didn't know it was the good old days while we were there. It was magical. They were superheroes. They were mysterious. You didn't know what they looked like without makeup. You didn't have a VCR, so you just couldn't pop a VCR in and tape them whenever. You had to catch it on live or catch it on a rerun or wait till a magazine came out. It was just a magical time. When it comes to Ace's album, I think Ace's album is critical in a lot of ways because the most whether you believe that it's the best album or not, I'm not here to debate that because that's opinion. That's a personal preference and an opinion, and everybody has their God-given right to their opinions. But the one thing that I can say about Ace's album, and maybe a little more, and possibly Peter's, maybe not Peter's album, but with Ace's album out of the four solos, more than any other album, I think launched a generation of guitarists. Ace was, kids were already really loving Ace because of the solo work that he had done on the previous Kiss albums, the solos that was in Alive and in Alive 2. And then when he had the Shock Me, where he finally on Love Gun, where he got the lead vocal, and then had Rocket Ride on Alive 2, which just took it to another level. And then they put this thing on the platter, and the first song they hear is Rip It Out. It's just like he was just systematically kicking ass with songs. And he was cemented as, one of the greatest guitarists of all time. Whether you prefer his playing style or him as a person or not, he launched millions of guitarists. There's millions of guitarists out there that went on to be in 80s bands, that went on to influence other millions of guitarists that they cite Ace Frehley as their influence. Dimebag Darrell for one, John Five for one. So he is one of those guitarists, and I think this album is the one that they would all point to. That this album is because it's got such good chops on it, such good solos on it, and so I think to me this is a very critical album to history in general, and along with the solo albums being very critical. I also think, and this is my last thought on it before I let you guys talk, I think it is very critical in that Ace used the smallest amount of people for his production. He literally used like eight people, and some of them were just doing stuff like background singing, chiming a bell, playing the talk box. This album was mostly like Ace, Anton Fig. Ace played bass on a lot of songs, Willie, and there was a guy that played drums on just Fractured Mirror. And so, and then him and Eddie Kramer produced, and there was some engineers. But core performance wise, this album was made by like five people. and Ace wrote a majority of the songs. And he's got a couple covers because and some people that helped him write songs, like. But for somebody who just a year before had to lay on the ground to record their first song and their vocal on their first song, to a year later, or just roughly a year later, put out this, that it's by no means a masterpiece. I won't call it a masterpiece, but just that growth, that accelerated growth in that amount of time, and to put out what some people consider the best album of the four, and to just do it with the small nucleus of the group that he did, it's mind-boggling. Does it have its warts, weaknesses, thin parts? Yes. And we will discuss those. At least I will discuss those, but we will discuss those moving forward. So I'm done. Somebody else.
Anyone else? I tell you, I've been up since 3:30. I don't even know my name, as you saw earlier.
You know your name too well. That's the problem.
That's right. Well, one of my favorites for sure. I don't know what else to say about it, really. It's a great album. It's a great cover. I even bought the shirt when they still had fat guy sizes at Kiss Online. So,
How do you feel when you listen to it?
how do I feel? I feel.
Does it make you randy?
I feel very summery. If with summertime,
For sure.
It's got a summertime vibe to it. It's I don't know how else to describe it. One of my faves, my favorite out of the four.
Least favorite of the four, but that doesn't mean it's not a great record.
Exactly.
I think I like the solo albums in a very nostalgic, cheesy way. And Aces, to me, is, we've all said it a million times, it's the most Kiss record, right? But it's also, there are two records I would use to introduce someone to Kiss: Rock and Roll Over and this. No one needs to know there's no other members of Kiss on here. But if you give them this record, they'll be a Kiss fan, without a doubt. And I think that just shows you the strength of him, the strength of, I wish it wouldn't have taken to the solo albums to get this kind of material out of him. Like, if he would have been doing songs from Dress to Kill on, we would have some great material from him. And I know he wrote Strange Ways and all that stuff, Cold Gin. But I think if he would have found his courage, Prehistory Comic Book says he snorted cocaine before he laid down. But if he would have found his courage in the prior, I think, oh man, you talk about kids wanting to be a rock star, But Rocket Ride, like you said, Shock Me, Rocket Ride, and this are just classic, beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. Although, even when I first got this album, when the remasters came out in 97, Paul was my favorite. And it's debatable whether he is anymore or not, but Paul was my favorite, but this was my first of the four solo albums. I think Gene's cover is the coolest because of the little bit of dribble of blood. I think Peter's is the most aesthetic, but I think this one, it just screams Ace. The look on his face is just, that's Ace, especially at this time. And, you guys mentioned Shock Me, and he found his courage and all that stuff. And I love Shock Me. I love Rocket Ride even more. And this album, though, I think, spoiler alert, of the four is the most critical because it showed Ace that he could do it. Now, did his solo career pan out the way he thought it would? I don't think so, but it could have had he stayed off some of the extracurriculars. And obviously, Gene's album charted a little higher. I think Gene's charted at 23 and Ace's was 25, I believe, if I'm correct. But Ace had the single with New York Groove, and it's a cover. But, for him to have a number 13 on the Billboard charts single, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet with that. I think, we'll get into it track by track, but I think of the four, this is the most important. Not saying it's not necessarily, I go back and forth between this one and Paul on which one's the best, even which one is the most Kiss sounding record. But in my opinion, it's the most critical.
I would agree.
Have you ever noticed that one of Ace's eyes looks like it's lower than the other?
You'll never unsee that.
The one on the right,
droopy-eyed.
It's droopy-eyed. Yeah, like if you take a straight edge and you put it across it,
he's probably hammered.
By the time
I think it's because the hair's coming down.
Yeah. By the
Yeah.
time you're at the bottom of one eye,
Yeah.
you're not even at the top of the other. You have to get all the way down to
I've
here to
never
get to the
done
bottom.
that, but yeah.
Now, do you have the misprint?
I do not.
This one's a misprint with
Yeah,
the.
I always look for them. I do not. Mine is blue. This is one of the albums when I see it in the rack or see it online, I always flip it over and look at the back or look at a picture. I do this and Alive 2 that way because I'm looking for the misprint on the back.
Shame on me, but is Ace the only one that signed the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. He's the only one.
I love his signature.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Little merch. I know we ain't at that point
Paul,
yet.
do you think Paul was kind of pissed at that signature?
Yeah. Yeah, because he made the ace look like a star. And I used to sit and try to like trace over that and like mess around with it.
I can still do their signatures almost identical.
He's coming back. Ace is coming back in November, I think. Days of the Dead, one of them here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
Are
the
you gonna
next
do it?
Origins.
Aaron?
I'd like to. It's just so hard for me to walk a lot nowadays. It sucks. And I've seen people that did it, and there's no pictures. There's no photo
Yeah.
ops. There's no table selfies. Though I'm like,
You can't with Peter.
I'll
You
pay
can't.
for a photo op if I had to, but it wasn't even an option. I'm like, there's no.
With Peter, you couldn't take photos once you got in the room with Peter.
Right.
You couldn't take photos at the table where he
Right.
was autographing.
Something
Photo
like that.
you walked out of there with was the photo that you paid $80 for, something like
The
that.
photo op. And
Professional. Yeah.
I do it. I mean, I've done it once or twice before, but I mean, that wasn't even an option. I'm like, there's no photo. And then people went and they go, well, I met Ace, and they're like, all these things are signed, but not one picture. I'm like, I need a picture. I'm a
Yeah.
picture guy.
I'm not an autograph or a picture person. I'm more about sharing a memory or an experience, and something about Kiss, it's just like I've had the opportunity to meet all of them and I just can't bring myself to do it because I just feel like it's like kind of like soul crushing almost. Like I just, especially Ace, because he's kind of like, yeah, doesn't even really look up. He's, especially if it's at a casino, he's ready to go hit the blackjack table or whatever. Like, I don't know. I can't bring myself to do it.
I think Ace of the 4 original is the wild card of, are you going to have a good experience?
Mhm.
Or are you going to get fist bumped
Yeah.
and bye?
Yeah.
And I've even heard Eddie Trunk say that. Eddie Trunk said, I've said to him before, can you act interested? But I think that's just him.
That's
It's
him.
just
Yeah.
his personality.
Yeah. I mean, even when
I would say the Ace poster is the coolest poster of
Oh,
the
Yeah.
very much.
I like it.